my question?
Yeah, you can come closer too.
Okay. My first question is in regards to nationwide rent and mortgage control. I know rent control is really popular, but what is a good policy that would help get mortgages under control? Because a lot of people have seen spikes in their mortgage payments, even though they don't have like actual amenities in their neighborhoods that mean anything. And yeah, is there a way to both create affordable housing in the housing market as well as get rents controlled as well? Can we stabilize both?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a couple questions and then we'll answer them all.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Claudia?
Do you want to ask the question?
I'd have to think of one. How you brought the historical context of the South, because, and the way that you say it, that it's part of our legacy as like the working class, that we, when everyone rises up together, when the people at the lowest rung of society rise up, it's like it raises everyone else too. Like, can you speak a little bit more about like what it means to have a revolutionary legacy? Like tapping into the revolutionary legacy of our country.
All right, I got one more. I can do one more question. If anyone has one right now. Yes.
So let's say I think that people are
I can hang this stuff on my.
that Republicans probably in the Senate and across the House. So I think you guys would have the executive branch. How are we going to do that? Because there's already so much going on. When it's just Republicans and Democrats who are divided government. So this will truly be the most divided country, literally speaking, in all of American history. So how are we going to do that?
Okay, I'll stand up. Thank you for these questions. They're so great. Okay, so the first question was about rent and mortgage control. Freeze the rent. Freeze the rent.
Okay.
I mean, the most important thing, if we have a government where we put the needs of the people before the profits of a few corporations, these are logical solutions, right? Nothing has changed. There's no reason why all across the country rents have gone up 24%. They haven't gotten better. It's the same building. It's literally the same thing. They just jacked up the rate. So the government could put a freeze on the rents and say, and if you don't like it, then we'll take it over. It's that simple. With the insurance companies, this is the way that they've been holding us hostage for so long, and they've been jacking up the rates. And then they actually have the nerve to threaten the states. So when they're making their mega profits, all good, right? But now climate change is happening, and it's affecting their profits. And so now they're actually threatening the state of California, for example, among others, of leaving. We say let them leave. We'll take over. We don't need them.
That's right.
We don't need them, right? And that goes the same for the landlord, and it goes the same for the rent. They can actually take control of these different questions. It's not impossible. The banks right now, their profits are the number one thing. That does not have to exist this way. It has not always existed this way. So that would be an easy solution to that. And even if, we understand we're going to need a lot more than just, and I hope that we're making this clear too. We want a lot more than just your vote. We want you. We're trying to build a social movement. The only thing that has ever changed anything in this country, anything, has been social movements, right? That's how we do things in this country. So that's what we're trying to build. We're not trying to be little saviors and pretend that a couple of us getting in is going to make the situation different for our people. No. This is a battle, but we have to get organized. So we're trying to organize our people, bring them together. The only way that we're going to be able to fight together is if we're fighting together. That's the only way. It's not going to be by signing one petition. It's going to be by being in the streets together, by creating spaces together, cleaning together, eating together, all of these different things that build strong organizations. That's what we're going to have to build. So it's not going to be, we're not substituting ourselves for the masses of people in this country that actually have to get organized. We have to get organized. The number of people who are in unions is way too small. The number of choirs like this one is way too small. And that's what we're trying to do, is build those choirs so that when we say strike, it actually means something. It's not just rhetoric. It's not just a tweet. We know how many people we have organized in this community, this community, this community, and this community. We know where we're weak, we know where we're strong, and we can actually get people to do things. All of the demonstrations that have been happening around the country, those build organization, those build leaders. Those are, the experience of being in a struggle makes you grow. And it builds unity, and it builds confidence. So those things still have to happen. There's no way that one vote is going to change that. So, but even within the bourgeois elections, we would say it's a state of emergency. It's a state of emergency because actually housing is an emergency, and poverty is an emergency, and climate change is an emergency. So that's how we would do it if we had to technically do it that way. But we know that it's not going to be about just technically doing it that way. It's actually be about building our forces. Because working people are, as Claudia says, the force of history, and that's what makes the difference. And for people who are maybe not used to hearing that language, it might sound abstract, but it's real. I'm sincere. The only way that we're able to fight in our workplace is when we have a union. And anyone who's been in a union knows that that's not easy. It's not, you have to fight with your own people sometimes. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of dedication. And there's no, you can't skip stages, right? There's no like, what is that word? Come on? Fast track? Yeah, fast track. No, right? And so you should think of all of these struggles and all of these protests and all of these actions and events as part of building our forces, because that is what we are. That's what we're really doing. So keep those two things in mind for the next ones too. In terms of the revolutionary legacy of the working class, I mean, that's what makes us braver than we are, right? You brought that in, Joa, here. You brought that in. We've been resisting for 75 plus years. We've been resisting. So how are we going to cower now? If our people were giants, then what are we going to do? What are we going to leave for our kids? And the thing is, for our class, it's not going to be, we can actually look at the whole world because the working class has been fighting everywhere. And those are our struggles that we learn from, that we take inspiration from, and that we grow from. So those things also, there's no like short answer for that. That is studying your history, that is finding examples and learning from them, and implementing things yourself too, and testing what works and what doesn't work. Because we're not just copy-pasting from other struggles. We have to look at our situation. We're talking to people in 2024 in Atlanta, Georgia. And the way we talk to our people here in Atlanta, Georgia is to be very different than the way they do in DC or Detroit or South Texas or whatever. Because the issues, although they are universal, our people are in different places. And the last one was about implementing and governing. I think I kind of spoke a little bit about this bigger question about building social movements and taking working class leaders who are already doing this work, right? And putting them into positions of leadership. So like when I was in California, I had mentioned about the example about the water because it's so important in this agricultural community. And a woman comes up to me and she says, I'm so glad you guys are talking about this. My husband is a hydrologist. Oh. And he is just like, he wants to quit his job. Because apparently there was some water governing board and one of the board members was like stealing water and giving it to these corporations or something awful like that. And he's just like, we're in like a crisis right now in this state and this is what they're doing. And all I can tell her was like, you should talk about, if your husband feels comfortable, he should share that information. He should talk about that story. Because it's very important to bring together all of these different struggles. And it's powerful when workers in the sectors are speaking about the issues too. Because politicians will come and put themselves in front of anything. They'll use the people as their backdrop. They'll say anything. But it's the actual workers that have the skills, the knowledge, and the solutions. And so that's what we're trying to do with this campaign, is meet those people too and get organized with them. What is the struggle that's happening in this county? What can we do to help? How can we work together?
A couple more questions. I know the gentleman in the orange, you had a question, or do you still have one? Oh, come on.
I think she already answered a lot of it. It was about, you mentioned during the speech, you have the different struggles everywhere and you're kind of trying to find, to organize them. Now, I know the struggle, feeling of the struggle is the common experience among all of these subgroups or smaller groups. But we still need to crack the castle. So the key to crack the castle, what it is it the struggle feeling, or is it potentially also how, like the future, how are you supporting building up organizations that are, like now, we're just reactionary in our movements, all of it in terms of socialism. But is there any, if there are new organization, startups, for example, in the capitalism, is the way to venture and growing the system. What is the startup of socialism? How to grow it up further?
Any other questions? Yes, right here. Oh, there's a mic coming.
What is your thought on the return of the Palestinian people, the one they were genocide in 1948? What is your thought about it? And you are going to become the president of the United States. I would say that to you, you will, because you get all our voice and all of our support. So the return of the Palestinian, what do you think about it? And how you could put in your agenda the priority of the Palestinian or the people in the world, and how to prevent the United States of keep supporting and giving aids to the Zionists and to the other country. How you could be able to put that in, as we say, like in words and in effect in your presidential program. Thank you so much.
Yeah, right in the back.
Okay, so I've just read a little bit on the Vote Socialist website, and I saw your policy about the end the war on Black America. So I just wanted to get a more detailed response about how that would look, especially the reparations and the how do I put this? I guess the way we address police brutality. I know that it seems like as of right now, we kind of keep getting band-aids on situations, and it seems like cops kind of just get a slap on the wrist. And so I was wondering, does PSL want a more revolutionary approach as far as the justice system is concerned, or is it more of a reform type thing?
Heavy hitter questions. The key to crack the castle. Yeah. Okay, so you talked about the importance of building up an organization, and then you talked about where we are at the stage in the left, right? And how we are reacting to things. And I think I want to say that I agree. We are reacting to things. And I want to emphasize too what we're getting by reacting to things. Of course, we want to be in a place where all of our communities are organized, where we have massive student unions, labor unions everywhere. We have mass organizations that if we say strike, we strike. And we know we're going to be able to strike in these different industries. And if this industry goes out on strike, we know that these industries are going to support. We have the people, we have the organization to actually make those things happen. We're not there right now. The truth is, the way that our strategy has been in the party is to react. Some people want to self-select a struggle, and that's the struggle they're going to bury themselves into. But the thing is, we have so many valid struggles that we are reacting, because what we're trying to do is bring together those workers and those leaders who are fighting. So we're not going to recruit the leaders who are fighting if we don't go fight with them. We're not going to recruit people from the Black Lives Matter movement if we're not out on the streets fighting against police brutality. If we're not facing the same police that they're facing, we're not going to be able to recruit and build that movement, because we have to build the actual trust, right? And so the same is true for all of these different movements. It is a shame that that's where we are, but that is where we are. And so, rather than, we can pretend we have this 10-year plan where we're going to go into this state and dig in this sector, and that's the sector that's going to make the revolution. We know it's not like that in this country, that these different struggles are popping up, and so we actually have to be people who are aspire to be revolutionaries. We have to be flexible and adaptive. And even though we're organizing in this struggle for housing, the Palestinians are being bombed. And you got to figure out how to get those people involved in housing at that Palestine demo. You're going to have to talk about it. You can't just say, I'm in housing and that's what I do. I'm with the tenants. Well, you better start talking to the tenants about what's going on in Palestine, because we need you to come to that. And so that's, I think, in practice, how we've been building the party has been with a step-by-step approach, where we're not taking on more than we can do, but we're pushing ourselves. And we're pushing our cadres, our leaders who are growing, to be flexible and to be responsive. And that, yes, we make plans, and we want to make plans, we want to be organized, but we also have to respond to things that are happening. And we can't put our people into boxes and say, well, the working class, they only care about bread and butter issues. They only care about labor struggles. They don't care about international issues. That's not true. The last 6 months, millions of people around the country have been organizing for Palestine, right? That's an international issue. We're not supposed to be interested in that, but we are. Because we can see the connection in that, right? And so even though sometimes the nonprofits will come to us and they'll say, well, what right does this housing group, why do you need to talk about what's going on in Palestine? You're a housing group, right? You have nothing to say about that. We do have something to say about that. Because we have eyes and a heart and a brain, and we can see who's who in that struggle, right? So we're at threat of being displaced. These people are being displaced as we see. So yeah, that's our side. We have an instinct. We see our side. And so we try to move people to organize. And that's the way that we're going to build trust and build organizations, by actually building trust and building organization. We only do those things when we fight alongside each other. That's how we do. And then, for the question about Palestinian liberation, obviously a huge, undescribable debt is owed to the Palestinian people by this government, by the United States. A huge debt. It's indescribable. But a socialist government knowing we have to start somewhere, right? And reparations is absolutely the first thing. And we actually know that the vast majority of the people in this country do not want to be starving the Palestinians in Gaza, or the West Bank, or Jenin, right? The vast majority of us actually do not have an interest in this apartheid state of Israel. So, of course, immediately, not a penny to the state of Israel.
That's right.
That's done. That's over. For sure. And of course, immediately, those war criminals have to go to jail. They have to go to jail. There has to be a consequence for genocide. There has to be a consequence for the collective punishment of a people. There has to be. I know some people are abolitionists. Our lives have to have some value for the next generations to learn. You can't do that, right? So that would be immediate. But I think that also, in the spirit of a revolutionary government, the socialist government of Cuba, how did the Cubans respond to major events? Through solidarity. They sent doctors. They sent teachers. The U.S., all they know how to do is send bombs and drones and kill people. But the Cubans send people to help, to rebuild. And actually, there's millions of people in this country who do things like this. who sign up for Doctors Without Borders. They want to be social workers and teachers. When there's a hurricane and Katrina, people go to Louisiana to help rebuild. There's so many works. Our people are generous, and they have a lot of solidarity, but they don't have the resources. If we actually had the resources, that means that we would have brigades of people who would be going and rebuilding. And I think that that would be a first step to making amends and rebuilding, right? That's just the beginning, but obviously a big debt is owed. And we could use the trillions of dollars that they're using right now for bombs to actually rebuild and allow the Palestinians to return home. So that's how we feel about that. And then in terms of end the war on Black America, support for reparations, of course, without a doubt. I mean, how much money have these banks been able to accumulate over hundreds of years? The bare minimum would be reparations, right? To remedy the centuries of exploitation and violence that the Black community has faced as a result of this racist capitalist government. I think in terms of the question about police, I mentioned, jailing the war criminals. Obviously, jailing killer cops is very, very important. It's a demand in the Black community, and that would have to happen. There's also a lot of money that could be put to violence interruption programs that, in fact, we know that in our communities there's different problems happening. They're a result of this criminal system that every day puts us in impossible situations. But within our own communities, there are peacemakers. There are people who can help to resolve some of these problems. And honestly, a lot of these problems can be resolved with some money, with some resources, with better housing, better all these things, right? So that's kind of the first thing, the number one thing, that without actual resources going to resolve the inequality and the intentional impoverishment of our communities, that we're just playing around, we're just talking, right? If there's no resources that are actually going to remedy the oppression of the Black community. So I think those are programs that would have to be funded, and we can fund them. We have so much resources to do it. And like I said, they're just right now it's just going to war and racism.
Alright, so unfortunately we have to wrap up the Q&A for now. But we want everyone to stick around to speak with Karina, enjoy light refreshments and music, and each other's company. But before that, I have some closing thoughts. This campaign represents a vital step in the struggle to build socialism in the South and around the country. This campaign is an explicit pitch for power. What does that mean? First, it means that focusing a campaign on proving the capitalist ideology of the major parties and some of the minor ones are totally bankrupt. Instead, we must go further to show how socialism is the best solution for the problems of the working class. It is clear that real power for workers can't be achieved in the current system, something made apparent by the very implausibility of our sound solutions. Finally, in this campaign, we will raise the key issue of how to make deep social change, the need for a party. Now, not only are our ideas different from those of other parties, so is our purpose. We organize at the ballot box, yes, but also in the streets and in the workplace and everywhere there is oppression and exploitation. Without a party, which unites the experiences and talents of a representative cross-section of the working class, change will always be short-lived, and the fruits of our struggle will be reaped for those who only seek to co-opt. As Karina said earlier, our campaign is a fight not simply on issues, but on the very issue of the type of organization we need to win. We are comparing and contrasting our ideas with the major capitalist parties. We are also comparing and contrasting our organizational strategy with that of other progressive currents. We need socialism
to solve the ills of capitalism. And we need a revolutionary party to establish socialism. So, talk to a PSL organizer here today if you're interested in joining the party. Whoa. The working class makes history together. As a united people, let's get socialism on the ballot and provide a genuine alternative to the corrupt two-party system. Let's shock this country and show that the South got something to say. Thank you everybody for coming out. Thank you so much, Karina. Thank you, Garcia. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Claudia. Thank all of you. Yes, enjoy the snacks. Enjoy each other.